Sometimes the deepest cuts don't come from fists, they come from words. And sometimes, not even words, just the cold silence after them. You ever walk away from a conversation and feel like something inside you cracked? Like a piece of you stayed. Back in that room, no yelling, no fighting, just a little moment, a sharp word, a shrug, a look, and boom, you feel it. Like something sacred just broke. Let's be real. It's not always the big arguments that break relationships. It's the small things, the slow burn, the feelings we swallow, the things we don't say, the things we pretend don't hurt. Those things build up, and before you know it, love turns into distance. One little snap at dinner, one cold reply, one moment they didn't hear you. And what do? We don't let it go, we hold on to it. We start to think, they don't care I'm not enough. This always happens to me. And now, we aren't talking from love anymore. We're talking from pain, from defense, from fear. That's the first wound. And if you don't stop it right there, it becomes a scar you carry into every conversation after that. But hear this. Stoicism aren't about shutting down your emotions. It's about knowing how to deal with them. Anger, sadness, hurt, they come, they rise, but it's what you do after that matters. You get to choose how you respond. You don't have to meet fire with fire. You don't have to match hurt with hurt. Ask yourself, what part of this is mine? What part is theirs? Because not all of it belongs to you, my friend. Most of the time, we hurt each other because we don't even understand what's going on inside ourselves. We react without thinking. We speak to protect, not to connect. We want to win, not to understand. But there's a better way. Breathe. Slow down. Ask yourself what's really happening. Don't talk to be right. Talk to be real. Stoicism is not a wall, it's a filter. It helps you hold back the poison and speak the truth. Because only truth can stop the bleeding, not blame, not silence. Truth. So the next time you feel that pain rise in your chest, don't run. Don't react. Reflect. Respond. Rebuild. What are you really trying to control? Let me ask you something. Are you really mad at them, or are you just mad that they didn't act the way you wanted? Come on now. Be honest. We say things like, they don't listen, they don't care, they always let me down. But maybe, just maybe, it's not them that's the problem. Maybe it's the fact that you're trying to control something that was never yours to control. You can't control another person's mind. You can't control their mood, their past, or their pain. And no matter how much you try, you can't. Force them to understand you if they're not ready to listen. That's where the hurt starts, in the illusion of control. We think, if I say it just right, they'll change. Or, if I try harder, they'll finally see me. But you're not loving them. You're trying to manage them. That's not love. That's fear. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. There are things you can control. Your words, your actions, your truth. And there are things you can't. Their reaction, their choices, their journey. And when you forget that, you suffer. You suffer because you're chasing something that's not yours. Look around. How many people are exhausted? In their relationships, not because of what's happening, but because they keep trying to force what can't be forced. I just want them to listen, you say. But do you want them to listen or agree? I'm the only one trying, you shout. But are you trying out of love, or because you're afraid they won't change? That's not connection, that's control. And it never works. You don't build peace by trying to manage someone else. You build peace by managing you, your words, your tone, your intention. You speak your truth not to win, but to stand tall. Not to be heard, but to be honest. Not to fix, but to be free. Let me make this clear. This aren't about staying in a place where you're disrespected. This is not about accepting abuse. This is about knowing the difference between boundaries and control. Draw your line. Speak your truth, then let go. You can't force someone to hear you, but you can make sure what you say is worth hearing. And that's power. That's peace. That's Stoic love. Why listening feels so hard, and why you must do it anyway. Let me hit you with some truth. Most people don't listen. They wait. They wait for their turn to talk, to defend, to win. You know it's true. You've done it. I've done it. We've all done it. But here's the problem: when no one's really listening, nobody feels seen. Nobody feels safe. You think you're in a conversation, but really, you're in a battle. And both of you are fighting for air, for space, for understanding. But in all that noise, you miss the only thing that matters: the person in front of you. That's how relationships die. Not with a scream, but with silence, with being unseen. Let me tell you something about real strength. It's not in how loud you can talk. It's in how still you can be while someone else speaks. It's in the discipline to shut up your ego and open up your heart. That's what Stoicism is. It's not about being cold. It's about being calm. Calm enough to hear the truth even when it cuts deep. But most people aren't built for that. Why? Because real listening takes courage. Because to truly listen, you got to drop your armor. You got to be okay hearing something you might not like. You got to risk being wrong. That's why people fight instead of listen. It's safer to throw punches than to feel pain. But here's where you grow, right here, in the quiet. When you stop defending, when you stop reacting, when you start paying attention. There's a study that proves it: when people feel deeply listened to, they let their walls down, they reflect, they grow. But they can't do that if you're interrupting, correcting, or waiting to prove your point. You want a better relationship? Learn to listen like it matters. Before the conversation even starts, ask yourself, can I stay calm if I hear something that hurts? Can I stay present if I don't agree? Because if you can't do that, you're not ready to talk. You're not here to win the conversation. You're here to understand the human in front of you. And through that, maybe you understand yourself too. That's not weakness, that's mastery, that's love. Can you stay when it hurts? Let me ask you this: can you stay when it hurts? Not when it's easy, not when love feels like fireworks and butterflies. I'm talking about when the weight hits your chest, when the silence between you and them feels like a wall, when the person you used to laugh with now feels like a stranger. Can you stay then? Because that's where the truth shows up. That's where most people run. We live in a world that tells us, if it's hard, leave. But the truth is, most relationships don't break because they stop loving each other. They break because people don't know how to sit in the pain together. We were taught to walk away before we were ever taught to heal. Listen to me, love is not always pretty. Sometimes it's work. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's two broken people trying to hold on through the storm, and the storm will come. That's where Stoicism steps in. It doesn't tell you love is all sunshine. It tells you love is forged in fire. It tells you strength is choosing to stay when every part of you wants to run. Not because you're weak, but because you believe in what you're building. But let me be clear. Staying doesn't mean tolerating abuse. This aren't about suffering in silence or losing your self-worth. No, if there's no respect, no effort, no care, then leaving isn't quitting, it's survival. You don't stay where your soul is dying, but if the love is still alive, if the pain is loud, but the heart still beats, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to dig deeper. Don't run from discomfort. Don't numb the truth. Face it. Name it. Speak. It holds space for it, because only through facing the fire can the roots grow deeper. Only through honesty, patience, and real forgiveness, not that fake, I'm fine kind, can healing begin. Anybody can love when it's easy. But real love? That's tested when it's hard. So I'll ask you one more time. Can you stay when it hurts not to survive, but to heal? Because sometimes, the strongest thing you'll ever do is stay when it would be easier to run. Are you speaking to connect or just to be heard? Let's cut through the noise. You ever say everything on your mind and still walk away feeling empty? You poured it all out, every word, every thought, and yet something inside still feels unheard, still feels alone. Why? Because you weren't speaking to connect. You were speaking just to be heard. And there's a big difference. Too many of us treat conversations like battlegrounds. We talk to win. We talk to unload. We talk because the pressure inside feels too heavy to carry. But if you're not talking with love, with purpose, with patience, you're just throwing your pain like a weapon. And guess what? The other person feels it. They shut down. They pull away. And now you've got two people talking and nobody listening. That's not communication. That's chaos. Let me ask you something real. Before you speak, do you check yourself? Do you stop and say, why am I really saying this? Is it to build peace or to prove a point? Is it to open a door or to slam one shut? That pause is power. The Stoics knew that. They practiced it. They didn't speak from fire, they filtered their fire through reason. They didn't bottle up their emotions. But they didn't let those emotions wreck the room either, because once you speak, you can't take it back. And words cut deeper than fists. You better believe that. Sometimes we speak from wounds we haven't healed. We speak from stress, from fear, from our past. And then we wonder why the people we love stop listening. Here's the truth. Not every conversation will end the way you want. You might say everything with love, and still not be understood. You might show up with truth and still feel missed. But that doesn't mean you failed. That means you showed up with courage, because your job is not to control how it lands. Your job is to show up with clarity, with calm, with character. You're not here to win. You're here to build, or at the very least, to stop tearing down. Speak to connect. Speak like it matters. Because it does, and deep down, you already know.